Alright guys, another day, another strength, and we got another video here for you today. This one is about not training enough. I think you should train more, that's right. And I'm going to break down how to do it. Alright? So this applies to advanced lifters, not novices. If you're a novice, start with the minimum effective dose, figure out what works, move from there, work up to this over time. It's going to be a theme here. Alright, so if you're training for strength, there's not a lot of, or this is pretty easy to implement, I would say, right? If you're training for muscle, like a physique, it requires a little bit more finagling because you have more movements to incorporate into it, right? But anyways, start with a main compound movement or multiple compound movements, right? You can get away with a couple if they're a little bit later, like a press and a chin-up, for example, or like a bench and a barbell row. This is going to work the most amount of muscle and require the most amount of energy, so you want to do it fresh at the start of the workout. Preferably not in a fatigued state. Unless you're super strong, then you can use like pre-fatiguing, stuff like that, but that's not what this is about. This will get you also warmed up for the rest of the movement, right? So you start doing this, and then for the rest of these smaller movements, you don't need to warm up as much for them, right? And then you're gonna work down to smaller movements throughout the workout as well. You can pair antagonist movements together and superset them. This is huge right here, right? A lot of benefits to doing this. Saves a lot of time, keeps you from skipping the movements, because there's no excuse not to do them. It enhances your conditioning in a way that's specific to training, right? Because conditioning needs to be specific if you're going to do it, unless you're just doing it for heart health. But this kind of checks both boxes, so why not do it? Now, people will say that doing a superset, it's going to impact the performance of the other movement, but not that much. And really, if you're training by the time you're at this point in the workout, you've done your strength work at the start. This is just for muscle mass. So when you're doing this, as far as muscle mass is concerned, it's really the relative effort of the set that's important. So as long as you're still training hard in each set and it's going up over time in the same state, right? You're always supersetting it, so you're always in the same state. You're not like, doing it fresh one week and then supersetting it the next week, because then your performance is all over the place, right? So just do it in the same state every time. As long as you progress over time, you're going to build muscle, and that's great. Another benefit is that after the main compound, you don't need to warm up at all, really, since these movements are pretty light. And they are pretty similar to the main lift in a lot of cases, even if they're not, they're small movements, so like you don't need to warm up again. An example would be you start with your bench press, then you do an incline dumbbell bench press after your rows, right? So it's like bench, then rows, then you're totally warmed up, just go right into your first set of incline dumbbell bench, right? Because if you were benching like 225, you're gonna be dumbbell benching like, 70 pounds or something like that. Yeah, so you don't need to warm up. Pay attention to the total time of your workout, and then work in more small movements over time as you get more efficient with the workout. So for example, you might start with 4 movements, right? You might do that bench press, the barbell row, incline dumbbell bench, and then do like an upright row after that, right? So you have 4 movements, and that's it. Once you start supersetting, you can even do the first 2 movements, honestly. Superset those, superset the incline dumbbell bench and the upright row. Now only like a half hour's gone by. Now you can fill in even more movements and pair them together. You can do biceps and triceps together. You can do forearms and calves together. You can do all kinds of muscle groups and movement patterns that you're trying to fit in your program, right? Pay attention to the recovery between sessions, and you can add more movements on subsequent days if you recovered, which I'm going to make a whole other video on this. But for example, if you trained your arms, or let's say you trained your upper body on Monday, so that split that I just gave, right? So bench, then rows, then you do incline double bench, then upright rows. You might even do like biceps and triceps after that, right? And like a couple sets for each lift. If your arms aren't sore the next day when you're training, let's say it's an upper lower splits, you're training legs the next day, you can train your arms again. You just have to vary the movement pattern a little bit, right? So kind of change the angle, maybe change the function of the lift. So if you trained like tricep push downs on Monday, train the long head of the tricep on Tuesday. It's gonna be more fresh, right? You can essentially train full body this way with an emphasis on one main movement pattern each day, right? Which is so you could have like a bench, a squat, a press, a deadlift, a row or a chin, and then your arms, right? Those are examples of your main movements, right? A bench day, a squat day, so on and so forth. Pretty standard. And then as long as you are structuring this intelligently, this is gonna be beneficial, right? Because think of how much work you can handle versus just doing like 2 or 3 compounds each workout 3 times a week, right? Now you're doing 2 compounds, maybe more than that, honestly, because if you consider like lat pull downs and like dumbbell bench a compound, right? But you can do so many movements throughout the week and get in so much more work, and then you're going to get a lot more muscular and a lot stronger in the long term if you do it that way, right? And you're going to have to, of course, as I always say with advanced programming, you might have to phase this with other styles of programming as well. So you run this for a while, build up a huge base, as they say, based, right? And then over time, then you transition into more of like a peak strength kind of phase, which I have videos on that too, right? But yeah, it's a great way to do it. Try it out, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, goodbye.